Super Coaches. It's the Game Day podcast, round 8. Plenty of great buys on offer this week, and to discuss it, we've got Brandon Savage from the SuperCoach Experience. How are you? And your team's absolutely flying at the moment.
Hello, I'm well, Tommy. My team's gone all right, 810th at the moment. Got in Nico Hines finally this week, so I'm very excited for this week.
And question without notice, Nico is captain, straight up?
No.
No,
not for me.
Oh.
Not for me. I've got the vice captaincy as insurance, but I guess, this is something we usually talk about later in the show.
Yes, question without notice. Look, let's talk about the big issue facing your team this week. Look, for me, it's Joey Manu.
Mm-hmm.
Basically everything is saying yes for me. They've got a good run coming up. He's got a great record at 5'8", or any position other than centre, really. He goes well in Supercoach. Anytime he gets his hands on the ball, he goes well. Everything says yes, except whether this is just a quick move back to reserve grade for Sam Walker, and whether he's back in the top grade next week or the week after. And then we've got Joey Manu back in the centres in the next couple of weeks.
I think that is going to be the case long term. Short term, it could be a 2-3 week play, but we get in these centre wings for these short 2-3 week plays based on draws anyway. They've got a good draw for the next 2-3 weeks. He doesn't play round 13 though, so if you're tossing up between him and Garrick, I'd probably go Garrick if you've got the funds.
Yep, and just overhearing a whole bunch of conversations in the office today, it looks like it's not going to be a really short stint in reserve grade for Sam Walker.
Right.
They eventually want him back in the team, but I don't think it's going to be 1 week or 2 weeks. I think it'll be slightly longer than that. So I was on the fence before I came into the office today. I'm now 100% in on Joey Manu. But the other factor is Joey Manu the buy, or is James Tedesco the buy at sort of 20k cheaper?
Oh, it's so tough. It's so tough. You could get both. You don't need to get both of them, but I think based on what you have available in your team is the direction you're going to go. I'm getting in Tedesco this week, so I've chosen Tedesco over Manu just because that fullback slot's free for me.
Yeah, I could boost and get them both in. See, but that'll leave me pretty short on boosts. What's the biggest issue facing your side?
That fourth centre wing spot for mine, playing Taruva tonight, which I've actually got a good feeling about him. I think he's been underwhelming compared to his first 2 weeks. A lot of teams targeted him in the early rounds for kick returns, and he was getting a lot of base stats through that. But I think the Rabbitohs right edge leaks a bit of defence with the Isaac Thompson side, so I expect a line break and a try from him tonight.
Just some technical errors over here. Very professionally run outfit we are. Yeah. Let's get some questions coming through, guys. Sorry, I was just trying to bring up the questions on this fancy new iPad that we've got here in the office instead of this broken computer that I always use. Let's pimp your teams. The usual reminder, send your questions through on Facebook or YouTube, and of course your sledges as well. Your best zinger will get Zinger of the Week, pop up on the screen. Send those through, guys. First question here is, do I use my boost to go Madison for Tapane? You go first. I'm asking you.
So Tapane is actually on one of the most traded out this week, which I don't agree with. I get he's on the buy, but he's probably at the lowest price he's going to be at. He plays around 13, and you saw this time last year, about this period is when he started to go on his run through the origin period where everyone's out and he's relied on. So I wouldn't, especially for Ryan Madison.
Yeah, I mean, Maddo is a guy that I definitely want in for round 13. I don't think you need to rush this week because the BE, off the top of my head, is in the high 40s. So he's not going to go up or down by a massive amount. Tapane is my second biggest priority for round 13 behind Madison. So if you sell Tapane this week, you're going to want to bring him back in round 12 or 11 or whenever it is. So ideally you hold Tapane.
Yeah, that's it. I agree, 100%.
AKP, that's Khan Pereira, last reserve over Warbrick. He scored a hat-trick the last time he played the Finns. Was that in the trial, though?
It must have been. They haven't played each other in the NRL game.
Yeah. I think that was in a trial, so it's a completely different thing. I've sold Cam Pereira. I sold him last week. He's peaked definitely now. He hadn't peaked when I sold him, but the BE is in the 70s, so I think he is a sell.
I think so too, and he needs 3 tries to get a good score for you. If he scores 1 try, he's still subpar to what you really want from your centre wing, so he needs quite a bit for it to be a good pod play.
And a question, the best front row option, this is from Jason, best front row option after Tapane and Haas. I'd be going Tohu, probably, because he's got that round 13 coverage, but he does have the bye in round 12, which is going to be pretty tricky, given that Warriors are really popular in SuperCoach this year. If you've got Tohu, Jackson Ford, CNK all in your team, that's going to be a tough round.
It will be very tough, but the Warriors are doing very well this year. And if you told me at the start of the year, load up on Warriors and you'd be doing well, I wouldn't have agreed. But
no.
I actually got Adam Fanua-Blake in my side last week, which is random. But with the attacking upside, and he's doing well. Look at his stats.
Yep.
I like him. I endorse him as a buy.
I don't mind that trade either. Justin's saying, should I trade Will Kennedy to James Tedesco? I'm around that trade. I like that.
Sharks have a good draw, though, but I think the thing is you can bank cash by that trade, which is very nice.
What else we got? Cody Walker or Dylan Brown? That's a tough one. Walker's got the really tough matchup against the Panthers tonight. We'll get to that in a sec. Dylan Brown's got an easier run, but he doesn't have the big scores in him. I think he's the guy that gets you sort of 40 to 90 very consistently, but doesn't have that 130, 140 in him, whereas Cody can just go gangbusters and can go well in tough matchups as well as easy ones.
Yeah, I like Dylan Brown now. I think you asked me 2 weeks ago, probably would have said Walker, but Dylan Brown, I heard someone say to me on our podcast actually that Dylan Brown takes the reins when they're up against tougher matchups, whereas Mitch Moses bullies the easier sides, which I completely agree with that statement. And I think coming up, he's going to have a bit of love go his way.
Yeah, he's quite cheap at the moment as well. You can get him at a pretty decent price. So I couldn't talk anyone out of buying Dylan Brown. Let's go to the burning issues. Right, massive clash. Rabbitohs via the Panthers tonight. Late mail from the Rabbitohs. Isaac Thompson, the winger, has been ruled out again. It's the same switch as last week. He's out. Tane Milne goes to his wing. Latrell Mitchell, you own him, don't you? You must be extremely happy. 2 tons in a row. Still has a negative break even. He's on fire. It's too late to get on if you don't own him, but definite VC option tonight.
Not for me.
Yep.
I'm actually selling him.
Oh, wow.
I know that's why when I saw he had a negative break even, I was really shocked. It's a way to fund Nico Hines for me. So I've sold him to James Tedesco, and you bank 200k from that trade. So I like going on players when they're at their bottom and selling players when they're at their top. So I think that's a good way to make cash when there's a lack of cheapies going around at the moment.
Well, speaking of round 13 purchases before, with Madison Tapane being going to be really popular in the forwards, in the back line, I think the number one guy probably will be Campbell Graham. The way he's going, though, he's so expensive, and he could easily earn an origin spot, particularly if Turbo or Latrell go down. He might be the next centre up. They could easily throw him on the wing as well. Yeah,
I like him in that origin side on the wing, especially with that Okar out. I think he's a good chance, but SuperCoach-wise, it's a very tough one with all these good purchases this week, isn't it?
Well, look, I wouldn't be getting on Campbell Graham now, that's for sure. We're hoping that he goes doesn't score some tries for the next sort of month or so, and we can pick him up at a decent price for round 12 or right on round 13.
Yeah.
Use a boost in that round to bring him in. That's my thought on Campbell Graham, but I just hope that he doesn't go gangbusters in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be tough to watch him.
Yeah. Onto the Panthers. Nathan Cleary. Looks like they'll be unchanged, by the way. Nathan Cleary. VC in this... I mean, here he is, icing the game over the weekend. He's just an absolute weapon, Supercoach wise. I mean, he can win NRL games like that, and he can win, and Supercoach wise, he just stacks every single stat possible for a halfback. VC tonight in a tough matchup. It's raining outside in Sydney, so it might be a bit of a messy clash. What are your thoughts?
The rain makes it tough, but he has scored 190 versus the Rabbitohs in the past.
Right.
I think this week there are a lot of very juicy matchups, and they might be too good to be true. So maybe going Cleary would be a pod route, captaincy-wise, even though he's quite highly captained at the moment. But
I've got Troy Wickers saying Sangster must be doing 10 trades in round 13, which is full zing that. But my thoughts for round 13 are that I'm making those, let's say, 10 trades from about round, sort of over round 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, not all in that week, but I will be using a boost that week, that's for sure. What else we got? Sunia Taruva, one of the most sold players this week. Look, the base has been a little bit on and off. He had this great game where he scored 2 tries without line breaks and didn't get a massive score out of it. The base is up and down. In some games, he'll make 20 runs with the tackle busts associated to them. And then in other games, particularly when the Panthers are winning, he doesn't need to do that much work, so he doesn't. I probably have to sell this week to get someone like Manu or Tedesco or both into my team. But I think we've only just scratched the surface with Taruva. I think there's a lot to come for him.
I think wing probably isn't his position.
Yeah.
He's probably more a centre or a Dylan Edwards type fullback. But he, on the wing for the Panthers, I was so off him last week after the game. I was like, he annoys me so much, Supercoach wise. But I'm sticking faith and playing him again tonight. I think I'll put my trust back in him.
Well, Mick's given me a really big rev up here on Facebook Live. Sangster, you fat-gutted dog. Probably weak as well. Why did you dog the beers and break-evens crew this week? I did. I was locked in to do beers and break-evens until about this time last week, and then my shift changed to a 6 a.m. shift, and I couldn't do it. So that's my reasoning. Hopefully I'll be on beers and break-evens at some stage during the year.
Good show, that.
It is good. Ben Heron, Junior Tupu as a cash grab. Rob Sutherland's all over him. I think he's a bit too expensive now. He's not for me. If you got on 2 weeks ago, well done.
I don't like the rotation going on at the Tigers. Like Dane Laurie not playing fullback. What's to say this new guy does go to the wing eventually? Yeah, I don't like it.
Let's go now. More Panthers. Sonny Luke. We were hoping for big minutes, 50-odd minutes last week. It didn't eventuate and only got 20-odd points. Hopefully we're back to 50 minutes, a couple of little attacking stats in there, and we can get a decent price rise out of him. It's
hard to judge what's going on there and what his minutes are. I think the big question will be next week when Melbourne have the bye. Lots of Harry Grant owners will need to play him. Are you confident enough playing him next week?
No. No, but I will have to.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to happen. Hopefully you can get some attacking stats in that round.
Yeah, I guess you got to do what you got to do.
You've got Nathan's very keen on you, saying we've got one... Sorry, it's Troy saying Savs is one slick-looking rooster today.
Oh, thank you. I got a haircut yesterday. You like my...
There we go. Fresh cuts for the show. How good.
Trying to compete with Timmy for best mullet in the game.
All right, we'll be chatting Friday night footy now, brought to you by KFC. 2 big clashes, Eels v Broncos in Darwin and Bulldogs v the Sharks. Now, I mentioned Darwin for the Eels-Broncos clash because weird stuff seems to happen in Darwin. Every time they go up there, there's a strange match up there. What we are hoping is that Arthur reverts back to that late change from last week where Hopgood went to lock, Madu went to the edge and Cartwright went to the bench. It's big news for Supercoach if that happens because Maddo is the 3rd most purchased player this week. And Brad Arthur, in his press conference this week, said that Madison only played reduced minutes. He got 60-odd minutes last week because the team was so far ahead against the Bulldogs. So I'm expecting him to return to 80 minutes or somewhere close to it this week. So I think he is a good buy. But I think there are better buys this week, like Manu and Tedesco, that are probably more urgent, and Maddo can wait until next week or the week after.
I think so too. He's priced at about where he's going to stay at, so he's not urgent. That being said, this Manu and Garrick, their break-evens are very high. So
Yeah, they could easily come down, and that could turn out to be a bust. Jermaine Hopgood, do you still own him? And are you happy about him being a lock?
I don't own him. I sold him when he got benched that week, which I was very happy with. But when I saw it last week, it's what needs to happen in that side, in my opinion, and I think it's going to happen again. Geez, do I target him again before round 13?
Yeah.
I don't think I can. I think Madison's got to be the priority, but if I was owning, I'd be stoked.
That would be devastating to sell Hopgood and then have to bring him back in again, that's for sure. Dylan Brown, obviously really popular, but we have spoken about him. Oh, this is a bit of Dylan Brown here. So, try assists, he's killing it this year. He has the most try assists in the competition. Plus, you've got a good base. Makes a lot of runs for a 5'8", and a lot of tackles as well. So he is one of the safest gun versions, certainly in that position, in a position that can be a little bit up and down.
Yeah, this year it's weird, isn't it? Like, I guess Dewey and Burton didn't kick off like we wanted them to. It's between him and Munster and Walker at the moment. So I think he's the guy.
Hayes Dunster, really popular this week, and even with all the trap talk floating around, he's actually gone up the most purchased list. He started around 6th, up into 3rd the last time I checked, and he might even be higher than that now. We don't have any news. I've been chasing this for you. I don't have any news on whether he's going to get dropped with Bailey Simonson lurking on that extended bench. I don't know, but hopefully we'll know at 6 p.m. tonight when the 24-hour cuts come in.
Yeah, I heard news prior to when he played his first game that it was his position to lose. He hasn't played well enough to keep that position, in my opinion. But if he's in my side, if he keeps the spot. But his break-even's 38, so you can wait.
Yeah, you can absolutely wait. Look, my gut feel is that he's probably not in the team when they run out, but I don't have any mail on it yet, but we are chasing it. So hopefully we'll have something for you later on today. Reece Walsh in this clash as well. I can't believe I missed out on Reece Walsh. He's just so good. He's looking amazing. He's good looking. Everything about him is good, except that he's not in my SuperCoach team. So I'm hoping that in a pretty tough matchup against the Eels, I know the Eels aren't going particularly well on the ladder, but the defence is generally pretty good. Hopefully this is the week that Reece Walsh finally becomes a normal human being and just bumps out of 35, 40.
I've been saying that for 6 weeks now, haven't I? Yeah. I'm not an owner either, and it's hurt so much, and I was keen on him in the pre-season, and I just didn't do it. So, yeah, not good.
Onto the Doggies v the Sharks. The late mail there. So there's a lot of action going on here. They've got, on top of the injuries to Carraz and Addo-Carr, they've got Averillo and Braden Burns in doubt. Now, this could bring in one guy who I'm particularly keen on in Jarrell Skelton, who he's listed as a forward in some fantasy games, but he's been playing wing in New South Wales Cup. He's one of these rugby sevens guns. Looks like a freak. He could easily come into that team on the wing this weekend and be a cheapie in a couple of weeks.
Is that like the Dane Laurie saga a few years ago? Because his brother or something, Will Skelton, played forwards for the Wallabies.
Yeah,
so
it could be something.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. There's a world where if he got named, I would look at getting him in tomorrow. But I think with Carraz only being out 3 weeks, it's a bit awkward, isn't it?
No, definitely not for this week, but I'm excited to see him run out. Also, Carl Oluwapu, the mail on him. So the mail is strong that he is getting closer and closer to a debut. And this guy's an absolute freak. The Bulldogs paid a $500,000 transfer fee to bring him from the Broncos. The kid can play. He's going really well in reserve grade. But the mail is that Ciraldo doesn't want to debut him until a few big forwards come back into that team. He doesn't want to do it just yet, but they might be forced to if guys like Averillo and Braden Burns, They've got Andrew Davey in doubt as well, so they could be forced to bring him in. Maybe not in the halves, but they could chuck him on the bench. He's the sort of guy who can play in the forwards. One of the reasons why he left the Broncos was that they wanted to change him into a lock. And he's like, no, I want to play 5'8". So they could easily chuck him as a utility on the bench.
He looks good. I flicked over to a New South Wales Cup game when he was playing, and he did chip and chase and regathered, and then
nice.
He looks so good. He's big for his age as well, so yeah, maybe coming off the bench is something, but it's probably not a SuperCoach thing, is it?
Oh, not for now. Let's see what happens this week and then assess him later on. But he does have a lot of SuperCoach potential if he's starting playing big minutes. At the Jacob Preston, are you selling him? A lot of people are. A lot of people are going Preston up to Madison. It's not for me. I think Preston still has a lot to give, and he's scoring 60 points a week, and I need those 60 points in my starting 17.
I don't want to sell him, but I have to.
Yeah.
To get, I don't have Nico Hines, and because he's nearly $1 million,
yeah,
I need to make a few trades to make it happen. So I do feel very dirty about it, but I think, is he a final 17 player? No. That's why. Yeah. That at the end of the day, that's why I was happy to sell.
He could easily become Madison for me in a couple of weeks' time. Nico as captain this week against the Sharks. Against the Bulldogs.
Yep.
For the Sharks against the Dogs. I've got it locked in. I haven't been able to captain him yet, so I've missed out on all his massive scores. So for me, it's locked in, given that the Bulldogs are injury depleted and they got towed up last week by the Eels.
Yeah, I think the Bulldogs have been towed up the last 2 weeks. So I'm thinking there might be kind of a comeback game for them.
Yep.
So I'm not too confident in captaining Hines straight up. And I think with all the good matchups, I think that maybe Cleary might be the go. I don't know. Yep. I'm so up in the air about everything.
Yeah, it's a tough week for captaincy this week, particularly given that there are teams are starting to get pretty strong, SuperCoach teams that is, and there are so many options for the captaincy. Take some questions. A lot of chat about whether to sell Charnze Nicoll-Klokstad. I'm doing it this week. I feel completely dirty about it, but it means I can get Manu. So I'm doing it. I'd love to keep him, but I don't have the cash to do it another way.
I think to get in these guns that you need, a player like CNK, holding him until round 13 is going to hurt you more than selling him now.
Question, what are Teddy's scores when Manu plays 6 historically? I haven't looked into that.
When he played 6 last year against the Dragons, Teddy turned up.
Right.
Still. It was 90 or something, but still pretty good, but Manu just got more.
Thoughts on Ruben Garrick as captain? Interesting, because they've got a good matchup up against the Tigers in a day game. Not sure what the weather's like, but presuming the weather is good, either Turbo or Garrick are both serious captain options this week.
I like it. Garrick's last 3 scores against the Tigers are all tons, so
wow,
he's a very good shout.
And then we'll take one final question before moving on. I've brought in Skelton this week. This is Mark. He needed a cheapie. I think it's a risky move. I'd probably still go Dunster ahead of him, to be honest. But that could change later today if we get some news on Dunster.
I wouldn't be against getting him in and playing him this week, just as because these cheapies that are big prodigies come in and have really big first games and then they fall off straight away. It'd be a nice little
point of different play. Yeah. Mitchell saying, did Tim, I'm assuming, did Savs get that shirt out of Rob Sutherland's wardrobe?
Yeah, I thought when I was putting it on today. Yeah.
Very Rob. All right, there's plenty of late changes coming this week. Let's do late mail. So for tonight's game, Isaac Thompson is out for the Rabbitohs. Tane Milne goes onto the wing. Looks like the Panthers will be unchanged. We've chatted about Hayes Dunster already. We're chasing that story, so I'll hopefully have that for you later on today. news out of the Broncos is that Adam Reynolds has been rested from training so far this week. That's not out of the ordinary for Adam Reynolds. He's getting on a bit and happens a fair bit. He is expected to play, but if Reynolds were out, that could seriously affect someone like Reece Walsh, because that combination that he has with Reynolds over on the right is pretty red hot. And look, I'm death riding Reece Walsh so hard just because he's so good, but it's something to bring up.
Well, you're seeing the negatives in it. I see a positive that he'll probably end up goal kicking.
Yeah, good call.
And if the Broncos put points on Parramatta, which could happen, that's going to hurt as a non-owner.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've covered all of late mail already, so let's move on to guilty pleasures. A great sledge has come through, a zinger, I'm calling it already, from Mick. In that blouse, Savs looks like he is the late mail.
I get it.
The late M-A-L-E, mail.
Late mail, right.
It's probably better written down than it is spoken, to be honest. Jared's asking, Duru to Schuster or Karaz to Manu? Well, look, I mean, Duru to Schuster is to free up money, so it depends where you're going to... Oh, my other trade is Dom Young to Garrick. Look, I mean, Karaz to Manu is a great trade in terms of points, but then the Schuster one is going to make you a fair bit of money to spend next week. Yeah,
if you could do both of them, I'd like it. Even the Dom Young to Garrick one is a good trade too.
But, let's go guilty pleasure. What are you thinking this week?
Mine is James Tedesco.
Yeah.
I hate getting James Tedesco when he's high ownership, but I love him when he's low ownership. So he's in my side this weekend.
I was going to say Tedesco as well, unfortunately. We haven't even we haven't spoken about this off air either.
No.
I hate it when we agree. But I'll have to switch my guilty pleasure to Joey Manu. I just think that it's more of a gut feel. The Roosters haven't been going well. They've been really bad. But by dropping Sam Walker, I think Robinson's going to get a massive reaction out of not just Manu in the positional switch, but the entire team. I think everyone's going to lift because he's a popular guy on that side, and it's a big call to drop a guy of such talent. So I think everyone's on notice and everyone's going to fire up. So Joey Manu's in for me.
How do you see this game going, St George versus the Roosters? Just because... Anzac Day clashes are always very tough. St George have been doing good. Roosters have been doing bad.
It's not... look, it brings the Roosters down and the Dragons up because it's going to be a slugfest, you'd think. It's not as good a matchup on paper as you think. But then the Roosters have the Dragons in about 5 weeks' time. That's the really easy matchup coming up. And I think it's going to be a tough matchup this week, but then basically the rest of the next 5 weeks are pretty good games for the Roosters, except for there's one clash against the Panthers in there, which is going to be tough. Anyway, I've just got a gut feel about Manu and Tedesco, but Manu has to come in first for me.
With Sam Walker out of the side, Tedesco kick goals.
No, it's not going to happen. Momirovski's going to kick goals for them. Cheapies, we need them to pop up. Let's do Cheapie of the week. One guy we haven't spoken about yet today is Jared Croker. He is the most popular cheapie this week, even though he's on the bye. So that's the biggest drawback. Job security is a little bit shaky. I think he should be locked into a spot for a while, given how well the Raiders have gone with him back into the team with 2 wins. But they still do have Xavier Savage back into that team at some stage. So, look, ideally you'd wait till next week. I can't wait that long. So he's in for me this week.
I think he stays in the side. With the Kotrick injury, Seb Chris may go to the wing when Savage is back. I'm waiting till next week, though.
Yeah, I would ideally wait till next week, but I just need to cash this round. Josh Schuster, I think, is the cheapie of the week now that he's been named and all but confirmed. The word on him is pretty much confirmed. Unless there's some sort of setback, he'll play. So if you don't own him, and about half of SuperCoaches already do, I think he is the cheapie of the week.
I think he is too, and he's a possible play if you need it.
Yeah, I've got him in the 17 this week, that's for sure. Up against the Tigers.
Yeah.
Hopefully good weather as well. Phoenix Crossland. Copes is keen on him, really keen on him as a cheapie this week with the injury there to Jaden Brayley, scoring a try there. What are your thoughts? He's not a typical cheapie in that he's around that 300k mark. He's not quite bottom dollar.
I think Tim Williams is probably the second best purchase this week. Oh, Phoenix Crossland, sorry. He is the second best cheapie option this week, in my opinion.
Yep.
Gives me real Lachlan Croker vibes.
Lachlan Croker vibes. Yeah, I can get around that. Jake Granville. What are your thoughts on him? Copes is keen on Granville as well. He's gone from being a dual fullback to being a utility, to playing lock, to playing hooker. Like, he's all over the shop, but I do love seeing a small fella like him named, I think he was named a prop last week.
He was, yeah.
Even though probably played a lock style, but yeah, a little fella at lock. We love that.
What is he at the moment?
Oh, I can't even. I think he might just be hooker at the moment.
Could be hooker, fullback, hooker.
I don't think he's got.
He was fullback last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, he got fullback in there at some stage.
I think some people are really keen on him, and I don't get it. He's played that same role in that side for a long time, and when troops come back, yeah, I think people are just keen on him for the meme.
Yeah, exactly. We'll take a few questions now. I'm on YouTube now, so send them through, guys. Cheek Ham as a pod. He was good at the start of the year. He's one of the sort of underrated cheapies. I thought he'd drop out of that team, and he just kept getting named and playing big minutes. With Kaloa Matangi out, he presumably has a decent run in that side, but he's already made his cash. It's not for me.
I like Host better.
Yeah?
With a negative 14 break even, 300k.
Yep.
I think he's playing bigger minutes now. I'm not sure if Jai Arrow deputises on the edge somewhere.
Yeah, he may end up somewhere,
Yeah.
but who knows. Marzu and Karaz to Garrick and Manu. Would you be selling Greg Marzu?
No.
No, I don't think I'd be selling Marzu, but Karaz to one of those guys definitely makes sense.
100%.
Turbo as captain this week. Would you do it?
Yes.
You're doing it?
Yeah, I think
it's
so.
Locked in. And Riley's asking Tom Gilbert's chances of playing State of Origin.
I think they're pretty good.
He's pretty handy for a bench spot, I'd say. Tell Brandon to calm down in the Top Sports Charity League. No need to score so highly every week. That's from Benny G.
I'm trying. just trying. Just can't make it happen.
Right, we mentioned captaincy just before. Let's do Copes captains. I was a little bit shocked by these stats when I pulled them up this morning. Nathan Cleary, 34% captaincy rate. Now, a lot of people probably just haven't put in their teams and changed their teams after last week. I thought that was very high for a guy who's playing the first game of the round and in a tough matchup.
Yeah, I think that will change, but if people forget to change it, I think it's still a decent option. I like it this week, just because it seems so clear, cut and dry.
Yeah, he should end up being a pod option. Nico Hines is next, and that makes sense for me up against the Dogs, who got smashed last week and are injury depleted. So I'm leaning towards that way. But your man Turbo's next on 16%.
Yeah, very poddish for him. A lot of people sold as well, so yeah, I like Turbo. Doesn't go massive against the Tigers usually though, so I'm a bit worried.
Yeah, my issue with Turbo is that he does look to be labouring a bit and perhaps struggling either with that hip pointer injury or the new running style or whatever it happens to be. He hasn't fully hit top gear this season so far.
I thought he looked a lot better last week. I think where he scored his first try against Melbourne, he was sprinting through the line for the Daily Cherons kick, which he wasn't doing earlier in the season. Hope that's signs of good things to come.
VC this week, Hines is popular, so a lot of people are all over him, either as VC or C, and he's VC for you. Walsh is popular as well. Mitchell Moses is popular, and people have Turbo as VC, but I don't see how that would quite work given how late they play.
Yeah, it could be Manu captain maybe.
Yeah. Teddy captain.
Munster, Grant. The captaincy percentages have changed. Nico Hines is 37 now.
So he's moved, that
And
makes
Cleary is
sense.
25, so... I
Right,
guess
that's moving pretty quickly, those numbers.
Yeah, I assume that'll go higher by the end of tonight.
Yep.
But, yeah.
All right, questions till the end of the show. We'll get through about 3 or 4. Zach Lomax with a question mark. He's on my radar for round 13. Both him and Jack Bird, I think, are good options from the Dragons. I think I have Jack Bird slightly ahead, to be honest, with his dual position and the fact he's playing 80 minutes in the forwards, but I won't be getting them this week.
Very similar, aren't they? I think the goal kicking for Lomax makes him a better option for mine.
Well, you've got the goal kicking for Lomax, but then you've got the base from playing in the forwards of Jack Bird. So, look, I mean, it's pretty much a 50-50 call.
Lomax takes the second run from every kick return.
Yeah.
If you haven't noticed, he's pretty much a forward in an outside back's body.
This is a good question from Boogie X asking Jareem Buller. Look, I've watched some highlights of this bloke and he looks like an absolute freak. He looks like he's running in second gear, but he's incredibly fast when he's doing it. He's got that kind of Greg Inglis style of running where he looks like he's loping, but he's going really quick. He's good, but he's playing for the Tigers. Is he really going to have any attacking stats come to him in that team? Plus, he's only available at fullback, and really you want to be running with 2 guns at fullback.
If he wasn't fullback only, I'd be much more interested.
Oh, I'd probably be buying. If you could get him at centre wing, I'd be
Yeah.
buying him this week. But unfortunately,
You
can't.
can't you?
You still could if you flick someone like CNK
Oh,
or
no, but
Garrick.
you can.
Oh, I can.
Yeah,
I
you
can
can
somehow
get him in.
sort it out. We could pull some. I'll put the call into Vapor Media and see if we can switch something up. Who do you this is from Damien. Who do you prioritise between Manu, Madison, and Garrick? The order I have them in is Garrick, Manu, and then Madison.
I agree.
Agree?
Yep.
Oh, we're agreeing too much today.
Round 13 for Garrick is what puts him ahead.
Luke is asking, who are your 4 halves to play until the end of the season? Where are you going to end up there? I think it'll be Hines, Cleary. I really want Munster and someone else. 5'8's a bit open, but maybe Dylan Brown, maybe Cody. It depends on the draw coming home, really.
Maybe that will be dependent on run at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Kalen Ponga.
Ponga, yeah, he's very cheap.
He might
I've got
kick-
my eye on him this weekend to see how he goes.
Yeah, he might kick goals as well because Lockie
Yeah.
Miller hasn't been the greatest goal kicker. But yeah, I've got my eye on him.
VC on Hines and C on Turbo. That's Luke Burns, so he's basically just copying Sabs over here.
It's a very popular strategy this week.
And is Meany a buy? Do you still own him? No.
No, I sold him and he kept pumping out scores, but he has a bye next week, so probably not. But I like him as a play this week. If you've got him, I wouldn't sell him.
Yeah. Well, that is it. Game day podcast for round 8. Big thanks to Savs with his Rob Sutherland shirt. In fact, I'm going to give that comment the zinger of the week this week. We'll catch you for the Teams podcast, 5 p.m. on Tuesday. We'll see you then.